Mila had her first basketball game ever this last Saturday. She is on the Wichita State Shockers. But with that, 7 of the 9 parents all know each other. And so, like, me and a couple people, we already bought Shockers shirts. So we wore them to the game. And then we're chanting, like, let's go Shockers. And, like, every time the team scored, I screamed Shockers really loud.
We're all thinking the same thing?
We're oh yeah.
All you need is the fingers.
It's, which one of the moms waved around at one point.
I was like, who named this team?
Wichita State.
It's a legit team.
Oh, it is.
It's legitimately the name. Okay. Why it got picked is maybe a fair question, but we decided to lean into it and have some fun, and so we are the rowdiest parent group I've seen at any sporting event in the most fun. Like the girls on the bench were like cheering, and like we were just like, "Let's go Shock!" I mean, we were shocking everybody.
Welcome to our Film Fathers podcast, the definitive podcast about fatherhood, film, and fatherhood in film. This is Jelani, and with me as always are a guy committing Harry Carey and a guy that's gone from self-centered asshole to safe. Martin and Brady.
You could sit at home and do like absolutely nothing, and your name goes through like 17 computers a day. 1984? Yeah, right, man. That's a typo. Orwell is here now. He's living large. We have no names, man. No names. We are nameless.
Just think about it. Our whole world is sitting there on a computer. It's in the computer. Everything. Your DMV records, your social security, your credit cards, your medical records, it's all right there. Everyone is stored in there. It's like this little electronic shadow on each and every one of us, just begging for someone to screw with. And you know what? They've done it to me. And you know what? They're going to do it to you.
This week, we're firing up our dial-up modems and logging into the 1990s because we're discussing 2 movies that captured the internet. Or at least what Hollywood thought the internet was. The Net and Hackers. Were they prophetic glimpses into the digital age or just gloriously misguided time capsules?
Oh, 1995. 30 years ago, guys.
30.
Both these movies came out the same year, right?
Yeah.
They were both 95, yeah. That's wild to me.
They nailed it.
Whoa, you got a 28.8 modem.
Oh my gosh.
I think they were fun watches, at least. Like in the bad sense of movies, like they were not good.
No, they were not good.
I'm not saying they were good movies, but they
one
were
of them was better than the other one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
anyway.
Which one? I don't know.
So, fun fact: I hadn't seen either one of these movies.
Wow,
ever.
That's
neither.
Wild.
Oh
no,
I saw them both in '95. For sure, I was a big fan of Hackers.
No, I knew I hadn't seen either one, or I was very confident I hadn't seen either one. But then I was like, oh, I wonder if I like accidentally watched one of these and just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't seen them. And
nice. We have never gotten that out of you. I don't think.
I don't think so. I think
that's usually my version.
No, that's
not my
true.
area.
You put some old movie episodes together. Those were all
something from 1990 or earlier or later.
Yeah. For movies that I was alive
I'm
for.
I'm never surprised by a movie that you had. This is like the first time I'm surprised that you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think I don't even really remember Hackers. I've heard of it since then. We do a lot of movie trivia stuff between us three and Redding, friend of the pod. But so I know like that Angelina Jolie was in it and Johnny Miller, but I really don't remember this. Thinking back, I don't remember this movie
coming out
or being a thing. The Net I remember coming out
yeah.
and then hearing about like how it was not great. And considering the star, it's not surprising. But
I mean, I was a big fan of Sandra Bullock in '95 too, so I definitely watched The Net.
Did you like her better in this or in Demolition Man?
Better in Demolition Man.
Yeah, I think so too.
Even better in Speed. Speed was the movie that I absolutely loved.
Right.
That's
my
the
favorite
one
movie when it came out, and I loved her in it. So then, yeah, I continued to love her. And Brady's probably right; she's not great, but
she's not. And I would argue it's undeniable.
Overrated. But then she started doing Miss Congeniality and whatever. And and other things, but she's made good movies since then.
She's
Gravity.
made a hell of a career, but
Yeah.
she's not a good actress. And there's no one that can
She was just
convince
miscast
me.
in this one.
In every movie?
No, not in every movie.
this one?
In this one, she's way too non-nerdy, and
Correct.
pretty to be like this recluse shut-in that can't get a man. I think.
I
Right?
agree with Martin. This is this, especially at the time, is a Hollywood like mistake. Like they wanted a billable, beautiful, young actress to play this role. But yeah, like you're talking about someone that should like look borderline.
No one
offensive.
was this person in
Right.
95, right? Nobody sat at home, especially beautiful people. Like maybe there was one person, but I don't know. They didn't nail that part. There's many other problems. with
I was going to say,
Should
there's
we
other
start?
parts.
Let's start with
The
Hackers,
Hackers, okay.
because I found that movie. I actually found it. I mean, it's clearly old and it's all over the place, but it is. I didn't dislike that movie.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
dislike the
Okay.
movie.
I agree. I enjoyed Hackers.
Yeah. I think it's so funny to look at how, again, like we said, how Hollywood thought the internet was going to be. And there were parts of it that were like, okay, I can see that. But then like when they're looking at the code and there's like all the beautiful mind type stuff going on, I'm like, what are we doing?
It's just
with
stuff
this?
floating around and like this little
Yeah.
it's like a screensaver.
And they kept using the same footage over and over again. And it's like you had to make, both movies did this too, but like you had to make, I don't know, the internet a physical space, right? So
Correct.
it's like we were in the mainframe and it's like a tower with
So I
glowing
felt.
green.
I will say, I had a note though. I said displaying like in the opening credits or right into the beginning of the movie. My note was displaying the aerial shot of the city, like into it being a circuit board, felt like a visionary thing to do at the time.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it did probably seem pretty I mean, I remember liking it in '95 and being thinking it was cool, thinking that the characters were all cool.
Yeah, and then they kept going back to that circuit board, and I was like, okay. But I still stand by it. And I bet that was a pretty cool move to make at the time, and I bet they felt pretty awesome about it.
Yeah, they probably felt pretty awesome about Fisher Stevens using a skateboard everywhere. Like, what the fuck, man?
Hanging onto the side of the limo.
Talk about being miscast, right?
I mean, he was the creator of Johnny Five. That's why they got him. They had to go back to the nostalgia. So for those who
Without
don't
the
remember,
terrible Indian accent.
yeah, Steve Guttenberg and Fisher Stevens were in a movie called Short Circuit where they built a robot, and his name was Johnny
Number
Five.
Johnny Five alive.
Fisher
that a
Stevens was
Your mother was a
snowblower.
snowblower.
Exactly. That's the one we should have thrown on here.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, he was, to your point, like he was probably a get at that point.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I had to know, was Johnny Lee Miller supposed to be a thing? Like, was
I mean,
I think he was up and coming, right?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't.
He
Nobody
wasn't in
on here was.
Trainspotting yet, right? Trainspotting was after this.
I think it's the next year, right?
I think
96.
it's right. Yeah, right after.
Trainspotting's an amazing movie, and I thought he was pretty good in this.
Is Trainspotting Boyle?
Danny Boyle, yeah.
Danny Boyle, yeah.
Okay. Ewan McGregor's really like breakout role
Yeah.
too.
And this was early Jolie, so
Yes.
it's like
Definitely the first time I saw her.
right, and she fit more of the still probably too good looking to be in the thing, but she at least played a little bit more of like a not your standard Sandra Bullock type.
Yeah.
The
The Outcast. The
she
one
fit
who-
as like a hacker
Yeah,
vibe.
totally. Played a
Pixie haircut, like different.
And I loved when the mom was like, "Now I see what all the fuss is all about." I'm like, that's a great line. What else do we think about this?
It was just. It's so. Like again, when
Johnny, bring the technical aspects in.
oh boy, I mean, where to start? Like the thing that I loved with both of these films was they pushed like everything could be stored on a floppy disk. If you ever look at like how much data is actually stored on a 3x5 floppy
nothing.
disk, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's I have a jump drive on my keychain that's like 40,000 times the size of a floppy disk. But yeah, just watching all the stuff, and then when they're going like when they're sitting around, like I don't know if this is true. I'm sure there are some circles where they just sit around and pass out like user manuals for computer systems, like in the big books. Like nobody does that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, when he was like talking about what every book was.
Yeah, the Unix
big
code,
red
book.
the
Yeah, the
red
red
book,
book,
the one that's
knew
too
them
big
all.
they couldn't carry. It's like
Gotta
okay.
learn, man.
Oh, I'm sure people did. I mean, that's how that's how Mark Cuban and Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and all these guys did it. But it was just like, yeah, I don't know if that was getting mainstreamed in the New York teens.
He was zero cool, man.
That was probably more just like a reference for for them to play off of, that people in the know of computers would be like, oh yeah, like that type of stuff, and other people would be like, what the fuck is this?
The 11-year-old who gets banned from using a touch-tone phone.
And the day he turns 18 or whatever, he's right back on. It's like,
I just like that I understand the times have changed obviously in 30 years, but the mob of reporters as the kid is getting into the car, I was like, that's quite a bit of reporters. One, it feels like it's a pretty big deal in the grand scheme of things. Two, quite a bit of reporters for a $45,000 fine.
That's what I was going to say too. The numbers the math wasn't mathing, right? Like, they're like, you crashed all of Wall Street for a day, and it only cost them like $100,000. I'm like, that would be literally catastrophic.
Yeah,
Right.
Billions
Yeah.
and billions. Yeah.
What was the number?
Even back then.
1,507 computers or something
Yes.
that he crashed?
Yeah,
Yep.
something like that, yeah.
So I want to talk about like the rest of the like cast of hackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you recognize everybody, or
I mean, everybody
2 out of
probably
3?
not,
I
but-
would say
Yeah,
at least.
obviously,
Or 4.
Matt Lillard.
Right,
Oh,
Matthew
yeah.
Lillard.
Yeah, very early Matthew Lillard.
That's why I knew
Exciting.
him when he was in Scream and maybe some other movies.
Which, yeah,
because
so for
was
me,
from this.
I feel like Scream was my intro to him.
Right. Then Jesse Bradford.
Which
Yeah.
one was that?
He was the one
He
who
was the
got
young
arrested.
kid.
The kid that got
The smoking kid.
the smoking kid.
Yeah.
He's
I
the
recognized him, but
brother from Bring It On.
He's also in West Wing.
Okay. He's in West Wing. Is
He
that
comes in and works in the office with Josh. Josh like hates him. He's like his dad's like an Ivy. He's like an Ivy
That's
League
probably
kid.
more where I remember.
Yeah, that's what I felt like because I saw him and I was like, that little fucker.
And then the freak. I forget the character's name, but the one
Oh, not Lawrence Mason or Renoli Santiago.
Renoli
Yeah,
Santiago.
Renoli, yeah.
Do you know what he went on to be? Mm-mm. So he's Sally Can't Dance in Con Air.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's where you started in this and then went to that.
He was also in Dangerous Minds, I guess.
Yeah. So he had a run in the early 90s too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think it's just funny because looking at these movies and thinking back, like I'm like, was this the start of computer based films and like trying to delve into like computers? And then I started thinking through it. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
like
there were a
we've been
bunch
doing
before.
this for a long time. Like, so just a couple that I threw off the dome: War Games,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
the Tron series.
Tron's another one where they tried to make it look cool, futuristic, and like physical space. Because if you just have, I do realize if you're just having somebody like sitting at actually typing into a normal terminal at a computer, it's the most boring thing ever.
Right.
You would never make a movie that way, so you have to make it look cool.
So then I also got like Johnny Mnemonic, The Lawnmower Man.
I've never seen Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, really?
Me either.
That's
Keanu.
right?
Keanu.
Yeah.
Where he uploads everything into his head.
I've never seen The
Career.
Lawnmower Man either.
Lawnmower Man is a short story by Stephen King that
Yeah.
has nothing to do
With the movie.
the movie or technology at all. It was literally a guy that like would mow lawns and eat grass, and it's like a couple of pages long. I read it and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch the movie now. And they made like 10 of them, didn't they, or something? There's like all these like straight to video sequels.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
I just find that hilarious that they take Stephen King has that kind of name recognition that they'll just take anything that he does and slap his name on it.
Yeah. And then to other ones that I came up with, Virtuosity.
Yeah, that was that before this too?
Is that Bale?
No, that's Russell Crowe and
Russell
Denzel.
Crowe.
Oh, okay.
I used it in the movie.
I
Pyramid.
remember. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I remember it being recently used in our pyramid.
Black Hat.
Black
Oh,
Cat
yeah.
was much later, wasn't it?
That's very late.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
recent.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Swordfish.
Yeah,
The Matrix.
Definitely. Swordfish.
Matrix,
Ready Player
I mean,
One.
Matrix is the
Yeah.
Godfather.
The
right?
pinnacle.
Yeah.
And then I put Superman 3 in Office Space because that's when they do the same plot in Hackers.
So yeah,
as Superman 3 in Office Space, where they're rounding off the little cents on the
Oh,
transactions.
yes, definitely.
I had that note as well. Yeah, Richard Pryor salami slicing is what they call Richard Pryor's character in 3 does the same thing.
Yeah. That's how
Copied our garbage file.
Garbage file. I know.
Need something to prove that I was here.
Yeah. And then just again,
The
like
world.
walking through, like you said, Brady, it was kind of cool seeing New York City on the grid and then turning that into the mainframe. But then as they're like going through the columns of the mainframe, like the glass pieces,
Yeah,
and
where
like
they're
going through
grabbing
the
it.
files, and they're like, oh, this is
So the computer they break into, I saw a note in
Was it the
is
Gibson?
a fictional
The Gibson.
mainframe called the Gibson, which is an homage to cyberpunk author William Gibson.
Yeah,
who invented
Neuromancer.
he invented the term cyberspace in 1982 for his book Neuromancer, which definitely was news to me. So, not Martin.
he read that one. Have you read it?
I have not. I've started it a few times, but I've never gotten.
But I
all
just
the way
thought that
through it.
was a nice. I think that's a cool nod.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Along the way.
Zuckerberg's favorite book, I think.
So you
Or
must read it.
What he says. Yeah, I mean, it's seminal cyberpunk. So
Yeah.
like it's probably it should be on everyone's list, I'm sure, for like sci-fi lovers.
And I also saw a note that around the release, the official website was modified to appear that it had actually been hacked, and digital graffiti instructions to see the net instead were added to the graphics, which I thought was great considering Martin's pairing here of
Hey, they came out the same year. It's not my fault.
So there's a website called Cybertype.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what it is, Cybertype, and you can go to it and you just type on your keyboard, but it makes it look like computer code.
Mm-hmm.
So people will go to like Apple stores or Best Buy and just like go to that website and then just type things and then like go to the next computer and do it and like freak people out. Like the workers are like, "What are you doing? What is all this?" And they're like, "Nothing," and then you just run away.
classic July.
Have you ever done that?
Hack the net.
Right. Hack the world.
I've done a couple of cyber types, but it's just out of fun. Like me and the boys goof around with it.
At Apple stores.
Best Buys and Circuit Cities, please.
The net,
We're done with hackers because we're going to the
we
net.
don't have to be done with hackers.
We could always go back to it. Though one other thing I wanted to say was I loved he quoted Ginsberg. He's like, angel-headed
Yes.
hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of the night. It's like, yeah. And the teacher's like, nice.
So
From Howl.
to that point, which kind of leads me into the net, I think it's so funny how gullible we were in like the 90s about like, well, if the computer says it, it must be true. Like all you had to
The
do was fact
almighty.
check it once and it'd be like, no, I don't think so. Like the school list, right? He's like, well, my school list says he's in this class, so he must be in this class. It's like, has he ever been in this class? Like, you didn't even ask anybody.
Well, he's new.
It's new. Yeah.
Right. I know
That's
he's
what it
new,
is.
but it was just like he said Johnny Lee Miller was in the class, but then he looked at the list like Matthew Lillard wasn't. It was like, well, I could have been new too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just like take it a leap of faith. Like, oh, if it's on the net or if it's on the computer is true. Can never be false.
I think most teachers would look at their roster list, and if you're on it, they're going to assume you're in it.
Present.
Yeah. The net's quite possibly the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's not as bad as I remembered.
Wow.
I was going to say that. For I felt like it was very 1995, and it wasn't awful. There was a lot of plot holes.
There are a lot of plot holes.
Lot
Not
of
a good
plot-
movie. We're not saying good. I just remember it being really terrible.
Well,
Yes.
I do too.
I remember something. Yeah, because basically for the reason I said, like, our whole lives weren't. When she said our whole lives are on the internet, I thought she was really referring to that her life was on the internet and like everyone lived that way, but no one lived that way in '95. You know?
Right.
And nowadays you could say, yeah, our whole lives are and
Right.
you could imagine us shut in that no one would know at work, but yeah, people would have seen her. Like she wouldn't have never gone into the
Right.
office. You
Or
couldn't-
even her neighbors. Like,
right. Her neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbor to just like
actually
actually.
happened to be.
I watched a scene where the neighbor stared
Stared
right
at her when she goes to get the
outside.
FedEx.
Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like you set that part up. It's like
she had
obviously,
Alzheimer's too or something.
it's like she's
what are all those green things hanging on them? Leaves? That's all right. Say it if you know it.
It's like my
she's
cousin Vinny in a couple of weeks.
she's terrible in this movie, and the
I didn't
movie.
think she did not do that bad.
Wow, I just you're grading on a
When
weird
she
curve.
when she was crying and asking her mom to, I need you to remember me now. It wasn't a terrible. She wasn't like, you weren't like, oh my god, look at this bad, extremely bad actress on the screen. Were you? Were you?
I
Jelani? I'm looking at Jelani now.
I didn't think she was awful.
Yeah, I didn't. That's all I'm
But-
saying. Not awful. Not great, but it's not. They're not good lines.
I was going to say, yeah,
It's not a good.
she had nothing to
I
work
said
with.
the movie is horrible,
movie's bad.
but she's bad in it.
I don't. I hate that you're making me defend this movie because I want to tear it down too. It does suck. It's not a good movie, but it had a little bit more The Firm vibe to me
Yes.
than I remember.
Okay, that sounds.
You know,
I
like,
can understand
her
that.
actually trying to like run away and trying to figure some of this stuff out, and how it all comes together, and just the way that they would come after her, the Praetorians would come after her, that they wouldn't just kill her, as opposed to what
Try
they
to
did
ruin
is,
her life.
try to ruin
Yeah.
her life and get the it's all just confounded and
Yeah, like
Bloated.
a bullet to her head
She's
would
not
have been
good.
done.
She's also not the worst actor in this movie.
Dennis
Yeah.
Miller?
Dennis Miller is quite bad too.
Dennis Miller?
yeah, that's why he doesn't really act that much. I don't know where he came from.
I didn't even look ahead of time. I didn't know he was in this, and I was like, "What?" I saw it on the opening, the preview or
The scroll.
the scroll. Thank you. And I'm like, okay. And then he came on. I was like, oh my god, Dennis Miller is
but not
real bad.
miscast as a creepy
Psychiatrist?
sleep with his patient. Right?
You're right.
Like kind of works. In
Believed all of
believable,
that.
believable in that. And then the guy.
Dude, he
was bad.
His first U.S. movie, and I was like, well, probably not. He actually did do other movies afterwards, but
Wait, did they? Is the martini with an onion called the Gibson too?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
yeah,
But I thought that was funny
beat-
too. Like
you
I
beat me
didn't.
too. Yeah.
How stupid it was that he was like trying to use all the things that he learned about her to get her. Like I feel like she would have known right from that, right then that he was.
no,
like,
but she'd
how do
been
you know
such
my
a
drink?
shut-in. She was
Right.
so enamored to have someone.
Oh wow,
Knew
I
way
didn't
too
know
much
anyone
about
else
her.
drank
Yeah.
Gibsons.
I said that was because we had just seen Frozen at the Paramount, and I was
Yep.
like, "That's a very like Hans
Totally.
feel
Totally.
to the whole thing." I was like,
Is Frozen a remake of the Net?
Think about it.
"Here, let me draw the lines."
Hear me out.
And then I got Pepe Sylvia over here asking me where's Mayless. But one of the things that I will give the movie credit for, the airline issues when they crashed the airlines, like that happened, a year ago?
Yeah.
Like that's still an issue today.
Except for when the guy
He
serving
flies his own plane into the nuclear reactor.
yeah, 'cause he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't know where ground is. No, I was going to say when she's the airline is saying that all flights are grounded or whatever. She's sitting there having a drink, and the guy's like, "Oh, looks like you're leaving." Like, how
Yeah.
did you see that it switched from all the
The
way
guy
to
at
restaurant?
Sabaro
Yeah,
knows when the board changes.
knows when the board changes. Yeah.
How do you know the guy who flew the
the plane.
plane into the nuclear reactor? Did you know him from anything?
He looked familiar.
Is he in The Blind Side?
Oh God, I don't know.
Was it Paul Feig?
No, he was in Deadwood.
Oh.
Yeah, he
I-
looked.
I
I've
feel
seen
like
him
He was,
before.
he was at Rectify as well, which I watched. I tried to get Martin to watch.
I feel like he might have been the coach, the high school coach in The Blind Side.
You, I think, are right.
I think
you are right actually about that.
They reunited.
Ford versus Ferrari for sure. I'm trying to verify your blind side. Yeah, you're right. Coach Cotton.
Wow, look at that.
It's also one episode of Justified. Yeah.
And then the other one that I have to give him props for was when he's trying to track her down on the cell phone, and he's like, "Just give me the two towers of like what the recent call is." And all. I'm like, "Oh, look at this guy trying to bisect
triangulation?
Triangulation.
Well,
But, yeah.
bisection because there's no three. It's not three.
You know, this is your realm, right?
You're right. Which is I thought was pretty impressive for '95 being able to call that out.
I'm like, I watched this. I'm looking at my notes. Like, oh, so bad. Oh, what the shit is this movie? I typed that out. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'm 50 minutes in. How the hell is there still an hour left?
It was a little long, right?
It was.
I
It
feel like
stretched.
it could have been 20 minutes shorter.
Oh my God. She drove straight into the rocks on the boat after 5 seconds.
That was stupid.
That was so dumb. I was like, where is she going? She doesn't know where she is.
And
the
no
disc
one's
was out in the sun for
and
how
no
long?
one's finding her out. Like she was in the water. Like it wasn't like she was.
There's the fisherman and the guy, the doctor with the ash. They found her. One of the issues I had was when the fake FBI guy comes and gets her out of jail.
Yeah.
And then she like crashes the car, but just happens to crash into the assassin that's trying to kill her.
Right.
Like
There was a lot of like really lucky moments.
Serendipitous.
Deus ex machinas, if you will. You know, like, oh, I have the virus that the guy sent me in the beginning. Remember in the beginning of the movie where he sent me the virus?
See, it all
now
comes-
it's at my desk,
it all
and
comes
now
back.
I'm gonna have him upload it because he's gonna type in his password or whatever it was. I don't even remember how they ended it.
they went into the mainframe.
Yeah, it's the mainframe, and it's eating away, and then the screen is like melting. That's another thing. It's like that's not how viruses work, people. It's not going to tell you that it's eating everything and makes the screen look like it's melting.
That might have been the best part of the movie.
It was kind of, it was
Because you knew it was over.
Unthrilling.
It was over.
He's like, it's the end.
And then why doesn't he just shoot her? Why do
Yeah.
people walk forward with the gun? The gun works at any range.
They don't want
to walk
shoot
forward.
They're not ready to make that
Right.
And then she whacks him with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Come on, she would have been dead.
Um,
You're right. This movie was terrible.
A shut-in who doesn't know the difference between penicillin and insulin. Like, when she's at the hospital and she's like, oh, he got penicillin. He's like, no, he was in for insulin. No, because remember, again, the computer's infallible.
Yeah.
And that's what they kept saying. Like, oh, he came in for insulin. Then they gave him penicillin. She's like, oh, he's allergic to penicillin. And she got all weirded out about it. She's like, how did he die? Like, what was wrong? Like, you know he's allergic to penicillin. Like, again.
No. That's they killed him by giving him insulin, right?
No, they killed him by giving him penicillin. They gave him penicillin.
Initially, they gave him penicillin in his medicine.
Right. And then when he went to the
They
hospital.
switched it again and made him showed it up. They said diabetic. He wasn't diabetic. They changed the records again to kill him.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Is that right?
But then she was like arguing with the nurse about whatever. And it was like, you would have, if you're that good of a hacker, like you've probably hacked a couple
She
hospitals.
just didn't believe that they
making a mistake.
Yeah, no, they didn't make a mistake. They followed the computer.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, though. Again, the
Are we saying
computer's
the same
infallible. Again, as a computer hacker, you would know.
I'm saying she understood.
Right. She shouldn't have trusted it and whatever. But anyways, it's so convoluted that we're arguing over it and it doesn't make sense to us.
It's got to be your bull.
just watch the argument happen.
Feels like arguing with my kids.
Did you notice at the beach the book she was reading was Love in the Time of Cholera?
Oh, I've read that book.
I'm not surprised.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Well done. Where else have we heard or seen that?
Serendipity.
Correct, as you picked up on my serendipitous reference a couple minutes ago. And in High Fidelity, they mentioned it as well. It's also the movie Love in the Time of Cholera is mentioned in the Seinfeld episode Serenity Now. It was the reason Frank sold computers out of his garage.
Wait, the two books in High Fidelity that he mentions are, I've read books like Unbearable Lightness of Being and Love in the Time of Cholera, and he's like, they're about girls, right?
That's a great pull.
Alan Kundera
Not topping that.
wrote
Yeah.
the other book.
But yeah, anyway, I thought that was a good callback. But
Who brings their computer to the beach?
hackers.
They're both the two of them do. Isn't
What
it
is she
great?
hacking?
'Cause they
Is
can't
she just
get-
writing code?
Look,
like,
There's been
Can't
times
get away. You're just like
you're going to
me.
end up with sand in that fucking
Right.
laptop, no doubt.
plus the battery on that thing lasts like 30 minutes.
And in '95, those things were like 80 pounds.
Right, exactly. You saw the thing, like she pulled it out. It was like a phone book.
Yeah,
thing.
they had they had no usability.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not connected to the
Not
net.
connected to the net.
Oh, the net. I will never watch this again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have watched it except that it's been 30 years.
Except Martin wanted us to.
Yeah, I thought we'd have some fun making fun.
It was good to watch. I mean, definitely two movies that are not great.
It has
but
been famous over the years, it's been famously ripped apart as like
it was ripped
one
apart
of the
immediately.
worst. I mean, all the other movies you mentioned, it was ripped apart immediately, but like, people didn't really know how stupid it was that they would have like the fireplace app or whatever. Not even an app. It was just the fireplace screensaver. And like she was ordering a pizza online, which definitely did not exist.
I'll be honest.
But they were trying to be like futuristic about it. And now looking back, it's even worse. So it's just been ripped to shreds.
44% on Rotten Tomatoes feels
that's
pretty
right
high. I think the 20s is probably a lot.
Yeah, I
closer.
feel like it should be
30s maybe.
a little lower.
Yeah.
I think 40%.
Saving
very
Silverman's
generous.
lower than this. That's a fucking atrocity.
That's insane.
Anyway.
Yeah, you're right. 44 is a little.
That's
That's
pretty
almost 50%.
It's literally almost like right in the middle of all the movies ever made.
Right. Yeah, that's
terrible.
Right. That's not right.
Yeah, it's less Sandra Bullock. That's what I want.
I was going to say,
in my life.
and then other than Sandra Bullock and Dennis Miller, there's nobody else that like we recognize from this, is there?
Oh, this movie, no.
Jumps out. No.
There was,
Well, the guy we just talked about, the guy who played the coach of the Blind Side of it, I recognize him. Ray McKinnon is his name, but no, other than him, I don't think there was.
But I could see why Sandra Bullock would take. Her career was on the upswing, and she probably was like, "Oh, this is like a cool." Everyone's talking about Windows 95.
was Speed 92? When was
I think
Speed?
92 or 93, something like that.
Because I feel like, she must have been like riding high off of that, and like,
Yeah.
well, I can do pretty much anything.
And then she did While You Were Sleeping, which made her a big like America's sweetheart. And then she's like, "Yeah, I'll try something else." But didn't really work.
Swing and a miss.
Like Clooney doing Batman.
I also laughed because I didn't realize that FedEx had changed the logo by 95. I thought it was later, much later, when they switched to
with the arrow
with the arrow in it, and I thought it still was Federal Express. But apparently by 95 they had switched it up, new designs, and
That's how
everything.
bad this movie is. We're talking about FedEx logos.
Yeah, seriously. That's all right. At least you noticed it. The neighbor across the street didn't even notice
Sandra Bullock
a
lived there.
person, what they even looked like.
As always, remember, there is no right and wrong. There's only fun and boring. Don't be bored. Make sure you subscribe to our Film Fathers podcast wherever you listen. Thanks, and go to bed.